Welcome to Who's This For? A podcast about creating with intention. I talk with artists, entrepreneurs, and media makers about connecting with their audience by focusing on a single person. You create music, brands, experiences, or stories. This is the podcast for you. Well, thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Who's This For? This is a podcast about creating with intention for an audience of one. And I really believe in that because I believe that when I'm talking, I'm me. And when you're listening, you're you. And we're just one person. Even if there's 20 people that listen to this podcast or 1 million, we're still having a direct communication. And that means a lot to me. And that's why I have this whole podcast. I am so glad to have someone on this show that I've got to work with the last couple of years. I had the real pleasure of doing that. And someone who I've seen communicate very authentically and about some real deep stuff in life really turned my mind to how we communicate through different things, including food and including how food is grown and made. And so I want to welcome to the show, Inga Orth. How's it going today, Inga?
Hi, Scott. Thanks for being here. You have the perfect voice for a podcast, so I'm really glad you're doing this. It sounds great.
I mean, I know I have a voice for it. I think I also have a face for it. So the video part of it is what it is for the viewer there on YouTube and I guess Spotify. This is a video on, but I thank you. I really, really enjoy it. So I start this show generally asking people to give just a little background on themselves for the viewer in case they don't know. This sort of elevator pitch / short CV. So can I know about you, but can the listener right there, can they learn a little bit more about you?
So my name is Inga. I'm a dairy farmer here in Wisconsin. I'm also a licensed cheesemaker. And for just over a decade, I co-created, hosted, and helped produce a television series for PBS called Around the Farm Table. It was a way for us to tell stories about what's happening on small farms around Wisconsin, how our food's being grown, why we should be caring about where our food's coming from, and just really a celebration of food and farming right here in the Midwest. And I also dairy farm. So I moved to Wisconsin when I was 24 years old to start a dairy farm. And I've been doing that ever since. And then in 2018, my husband Chance and I developed a small creamery. And now we own the smallest licensed creamery in the state of Wisconsin. So I'm really excited about that. I was just out in the creamery cutting up cheese and sampling it. I can't believe I forgot all about that.
Oh, and I've had your cheese. It's so delicious. And yeah, you know, that's actually something I kind of wanted to talk about at the start of the show. We'll talk about the media stuff and all of that in a bit. But I do want to talk about the creamery because it's something that we talk about in the creative industry a lot, but it's also something that you do very uniquely in farming, and that is making small batch cheese. Can you tell me why that's important to you and what that has done for your business in that agriculture sector?
So here we make a small batch raw milk cloth bound cheddar. It's a traditional way of making cheddar since the beginning of time. We take just the milk from our cows. So our Jersey cows produce a really rich quality milk during the grazing season. They're out there harvesting their own grasses. They're all these native grasses that we have here on the farm. So they're getting fresh air. They're getting these really nutrient dense grasses, and they're also providing habitat for all kinds of different grassland birds, different insects, and all these things. So when you're eating our cheese, you're eating the story of our farm. This is captures a moment in time of our farm. We make our cheese in such small batches with about 500 pounds of milk each make. So you're getting 2 to 3 milkings. You're getting to taste that pasture that those cows were grazing in. You're getting to reflect on that time of the season. So our butter fat, the color of our milk, it changes from season to season. I have been farming my whole life. I'm a 4th-generation dairy farmer. For me to now be able to see that process from the cows eating the grass to milking the cows to putting the curds together into a block of cheese and then handing it to someone at a farmer's market, it makes the experience for me completely different.
Yeah.
I feel like I've changed careers completely. The love I feel for the land has grown deeper. The connection I have with my animals is so much deeper. And it's made my work so much more meaningful. I did it because I needed to save my farm and make money. And it's saved me in the process.
That's amazing. And do you find that in your sort of sphere as a agriculture educator that this niching has helped you kind of share what you're doing with other farmers in the region?
Yeah, I think as farmers, we wear so many hats. We are midwives, veterinarians, marketers, all of these different things. And we do a great job in our community with sharing what's happening, sharing connections. Here, find this person here, or if you're in that part of the state, find here. So uh, it's helped me communicate the importance of our community through food.
That's amazing. Well, let's talk a little bit more about how you're communicating. I've really appreciated a lot of the stuff you've done, especially as the person that helps with your social media, because you do a lot of it. Like I'd say 98% of it, which I appreciate because but what your tone in it, it's a little bit I noticed it's similar but slightly different to your around the farm table tone. Is that something that has developed over the last few years?
Yeah. And so for a long time, I was showing up on camera as Inga on Around the Farm Table. And I was showing up in a costume. And I've always been passionate about educating and storytelling and just telling people about all of these wonderful things that we have here, right? Sharing these beautiful stories. So I loved being able to be on the farms and telling these stories. But during that whole time, I was going through these very difficult things behind the scenes with family, with friends, with getting through difficult times in my life. And it made that experience really hard for me. And I always felt like every time I was getting in front of the camera, that I was like just a different version of myself. I completely started to tune out after a few seasons of just, I didn't want to have to stand in front of the camera and say, oh, this is very interesting. Why are you passionate about farming? Because nobody can tell you why they're passionate about farming in a 26-minute episode on PBS. Because people are passionate about farming because it is exactly who we are. Because we
Yeah.
fight tooth and nail to stay on our lands. We are out there every single day to feed people, to do the work to feed people. It is hard. We do. Farmers make about 14 cents a dollar. For every dollar you spend at the grocery store, about 14 cents comes back to the farmer. I've been applying for jobs this morning so I can get off farm income because 90% of farms, just like mine, have to have off farm income to make things work. I'm passionate about these things. And it wasn't coming through. I wasn't able to be authentic on camera for a number of different circumstances. And it was killing me, Scott. Like, it was like I was drowning in this burnout of like feeling that I had a towel stuffed down my throat. And the things that I wanted to say, the things I wanted to celebrate, the person I wanted to become, I wasn't able to be her. And I just decided, like, well, that has to change. And I've, over the last year, put so much work into my life of slowing down, being mindful. I stopped drinking alcohol pretty much. I kind of put it to the side and I started focusing on health and being creative
Yeah.
and enjoying my life and finding ways to do that. Like, how often do we make that a focus, right?
Right.
I think we need to make that a focus in our life because what I've seen happen in my own life, from stopping my television series, from slowing down. So I used to always milk about 50 cows. I'm more profitable now with less cows. I took my milk price up. By doing less, I'm making more. I stopped running around the state filming for my TV show. I'm doing uh, social media outreach with all of the lessons I'm learning in life. and I want to pass those on to other people. And I'm finding my voice. I'm finding that by absolutely being myself, I am connecting with people in a completely different way, in a way that I can feel like I can be myself and I feel like I'm showing up for others. But I'm finding that when I'm putting myself first in these situations of letting myself be, my cows are even producing more milk. So
Oh,
if anyone takes anything from this podcast, please take a break and rest.
right. Right. I appreciate that. And you are doing so much to share your journey on social media, but also through direct presentations and speeches to audiences. How in the last couple of years, how have those evolved as you're evolving?
Well, one thing I really appreciate is having been on PBS. I have been in the living rooms of people for over 10 years. They've watched me through all of the things I was going through in life, through weight gain, through weight loss, through all of these different things, through my barn burning completely down. And they're people that have just been so supportive of me. Um, and I feel like by also being myself, I just feel like I've just created a whole family through the people I'm connecting with. But so by going out and talking at the libraries, I feel like I'm giving a different message. I used to go around the whole state, talk at libraries, women's events, all these different things. And I would talk about a recipe and all the funny things that went along with farming. And now I'm able to talk more authentically and to see the look in folks' eyes, to see the connection that I'm making and the understanding. It's been amazing. Uh, and it just is like, wow, yeah, when you show up authentically, people can notice that. They can really tell and they will embrace you.
Oh yeah. That's that is for real. So you're really connecting with people on a real level, which is yeah, that's what this is all about. Have you have you had any direct chats with anyone after these presentations or anything about ways they've helped them?
Scott, I have been on television for over 10 years, and I will, of course, get people that have recognized me throughout those 10 years and people, oh, hi, blah, blah, blah. I am getting stopped at the grocery store now in a different way. I am having women. I just was at the thrift store yesterday and I was like reaching for this blanket, and this other woman looked up and she's like, hey, Inga, how are you? We had this great conversation and we just like connected in a way that I don't think I could have before my awakening and my authenticity. And it was so beautiful. I had a woman stop me at the feed store the other day and give me a hug. These, the way that I'm able to show up for people now, I think it's like, boy, I think I found my I found, it's I don't know, it's my purpose, but I found that what I want to communicate. And what it is I want to communicate to love yourself. I
Mhm.
want to communicate that that's okay to like absolutely madly fall in love with yourself, to set boundaries with people in your lives. I want to communicate to look for the joy every single day in your life. I want to communicate that we are so not alone in any of these circumstances that we've been through, whether it's a relationship with a narcissist or poverty or, complete
Mhm.
devastation, difficult in family relationships, all of these things. We all go through this stuff and we never talk about it, or we're starting to talk about it, right? But I still feel like I'm in that generation that it's like, you don't really talk about it and you're
Right.
fine. And I think we're not we're not fine. There's no one that's fine. So when I'm finding myself bringing this to the table and talking about these things that need to be talked about, uh, I have had people come up to me at my farmer's market booth and just hug me. It's
Oh,
just it's made my life the most rich life I can be. Like I'm just sitting here thinking I have the most. I've went no contact with my entire family, my entire biological family. I've never felt so much support or so much family as I do now
mm.
with the connection I've had through strangers, through people who I've known that are sharing their stories with me. Uh, as we talk about communicating and connecting with people, if we can allow ourselves to be okay with who we are and open up our hearts and communicate just authentically as us, I think it just paves the way for a whole new understanding and conversation.
Oh, definitely. I'm working on formulating a question, and the watcher can see how this process goes in my head. But something I'm really thinking about as I talk about this is it's interesting to be someone who has those building blocks of creativity from the past. I think I have that somewhat too, but then to be really confronting real life and real emotions and real pain. Do you think having that past in communications has sort of, I don't know, has helped you share your real truth now?
Absolutely. One thing I had to get over I started therapy. There's a program for farmers in Wisconsin that you can have therapy provided for free. And I started doing that in November, and it's really helped me understand myself and communicate. That's what's really made me want to share is finding all this information, like, wow, these light bulb moments. But having that, so I had to kind of overcome this whole, um, I remember going into therapy in November, and I was booked into this talk I was giving in January at the university, the talk that I gave there. And I was like, what am I supposed to talk about? I'm not interesting. Like, I don't know what I am going to tell these people. I don't know what I'm going to teach these people. What am I doing? Why did they hire me to do a keynote? I mean, I was just like full on um, imposter syndrome. And I'm still working through that. But then I had to sit down and say, oh, I've helped produce a television series that's aired nationwide. We've aired in like 28 different states or something, and Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. I've started a dairy farm from scratch. I didn't take over my family's dairy farm. I started it from scratch. I entered into a world of all, these male dominated industries, all this stuff. Like, I had to go back, and then I had to say, oh, okay, yeah, I have the skill set to teach about what I'm going through. I have the knowledge of communicating.
Yeah.
I've sat with producers for the last 10 years and, did two camera, two voiceovers, memorizing things and learning through that process of how to communicate. And what I've learned is that the best way to communicate is just by being absolutely vulnerable and absolutely yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Eh, But I don't think I could have ever felt this comfortable. People ask me all the time. I've been sharing really raw information about my struggle with my family connection and things. And people ask me how, it's one thing to do this, but you're doing it so publicly and you're doing it, how can you do this? Well, I've been put in the public eye since I was a little kid. This is all I've known my entire life is standing up on stage and promoting something or singing or talking about, education. So this is just a natural fit for me. And I think it's something that has to be talked about, needs to be talked about. Uh, and I've just
Right.
always been put in a place where I can do it. Here we go.
Well, I'm glad that you're using that past to communicate. That is amazing. This is just an aside. I think one thing for the listeners, in case they're interested, one thing on the like mechanical front of communication that we both learned in the past year is it's very interesting. Communicating through your personal profiles on social media seems to be a lot more effective for creating connection and also just getting views in general. So that's just a social media tip for the listeners. But
Yeah.
it's been interesting watching you pivot from that TV show voice to your authentic voice. Hey there, viewer. Editor Scott here. So, at the tail end of our interview, we had a little technical hiccup on my end. And so this is ending abruptly, but you know, this chat really was about showing up and being authentic and presenting. And man, Inga is doing a fantastic job at that. I highly encourage you to follow her on Facebook. She's Inga Orth. St. Isidore's Dairy is out there. There's also Unpasteurized Inga on Instagram. She gives speeches throughout Western Wisconsin. You can actually even hit me up if you want to have her give a speech in your area. That's one of the things I do with her. So thank you so much. I apologize for the hiccup at the end, but I wanted to get the rest of this conversation out to you because it is so relevant and raw and real. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you for watching. We'll do another one of these again next week. And I'm hoping that you don't see editor Scott again. Host Scott's a lot more attractive. But guess what? Here's announcer Scott. And that's it for this episode of Who Is This For? Remember, whether you're creating music, brands, experiences, or stories, it's all about focusing on that one person, you. I'm Scott Morfitt, and you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time on Who's This For?